Hi ladies and gentlemen, so I wanted to take the time to go through the 5.1 Day 1 How Good is Mrs. Walker at Free Throws activity with you today because I think it's an important one to go through to really kick off this Chapter 5 unit all about probability. So Mrs. Walker thinks she's pretty good free throw shooter. How many free throws would you like to see Mrs. Walker shoot before you could be confident in guessing her free throw percentage? So you're going to watch me shoot some free throws, and then when you're confident, make a guess at my free throw percentage. So question 1 here says, as each shot is attempted, keep track of the number of made free throws and the total number of shots attempted in the table below. When you think you know my true free throw percentage, stop recording the shots. So we have whether it's a make or a miss, and then the proportion of makes. So I'm not actually going to be throwing or shooting free throws, but all right, I shoot once and we made it. Okay, so we made it. So on our sheet, I'm going to say make. Proportion of makes is 1 out of 1. So let's see here. I want you to be able to see both of these at the same time. Whoops, not that though. Sorry. Okay, so on my table, you can see that it says that I made it, and then my proportion of makes is 1 out of 1. All right, we're going to shoot again, and we made it again. So we have another make, and now I have made 2 out of 2. So my proportion is 100% or 1. All right, we're going to shoot again. Oh, and we missed. So this time it's a miss. So I've made 2 out of 3 shots. So for my proportion of makes, we would say 2 out of 3, or you could put the decimal version of that or the percentage. We're going to shoot again. So we have made it. And so we have 3 out of the 4 shots that I've made. So you can see here I have 3 out of 4. All right, we're going to shoot again, and I missed. Right now, I feel like I'm looking pretty good. So that's going to be 3 out of 5, or in other words, that proportion of makes is 60% or 0.6. Now notice now that our table goes from 5 to 10. So I'm going to, here with my shots, instead of doing 1, I'm going to add 5 shots and shoot. Now I'm at a 50% here. So I went and I made some of them and missed some of them. So my proportion of makes is 5 out of 10 now. So we don't really need to worry about this part because we're not going by singles, we're doing multiples at a time. So we're just going to continue filling the proportion of makes. So right now I'm at a 5 out of 10. If you feel like you have enough information to make a prediction, go ahead, but I'm going to keep going. So now we're at 8 out of 15 for makes. We're going to do 5 more. Now we're at 10 out of 20 for makes. Now the table moves to do 10 at a time. And we're at 18 out of 30. In other words, a 60%. We'll do 10 more. And we're at 23 out of 40. If we do 10 more, we're at 29 out of 50. Let's look at our graph for a moment. Notice how it went pretty extreme in the up, down, and then it had a bounce, and then it kind of arced here. But as we're going on, notice how the difference from the proportion of shots made is beginning to kind of equalize out. So let's do this one more time. And if you're wondering where I got this website from, it's something that I would have sent to you in a link, but because I'm kind of doing the activity for you, it's okay that you don't have this in front of you. So we're at 34 to 60. Let's do it once more. We're at 40 at a 70. And one more time to finish up our table. We're at 46 out of 80. So notice how really at the end, we're really starting to level out, if you will, the more shots we make. So back to this activity, what do you think is Mrs. Walker's true free throw percentage? So take a guess, and then I would sketch a picture of the graph here for question 3. So notice my sketch is not perfect, but when you look at my sketch, notice that this leveling out piece is happening between 50 and 60%, which is really what I'm wanting to notice. Because this is just saying at the beginning, yeah, we got pretty extreme, and then we started leveling out between 50 and 60%. So from here, we want to think about how could we make a more accurate guess, right? How could you make your guess more accurate? Well, look at our graph here. The more shots we made, the more trials we encountered, the more, or I guess not the more, the less variability we had, right? So our graph really begins leveling off because as we continue to do more and more trials, we're getting a better idea of what the true proportion is. So the way that you can always make your guess more accurate is to continue doing more and more trials and collecting more and more data. So I have a percentage. So if we show the true probability, we would find that the true probability is 60%. So notice that currently where we are at, it's not quite at the 60%, right? It's a little bit below. But if I were to have this number of shots go out to 100, you're eventually going to begin seeing this line continuing to get closer and closer and closer and leveling off here. So even though it might seem like 80 is a big number, it's really actually not big enough to get the most accurate representation. And we could actually continue going through this to 1,000 and continue doing more and more shots, and you would find that as we continue to do more shots, this proportion of shots made is going to be perfectly or really, really closely aligned. But again, that doesn't mean that we're not going to dip below it or above it again, but we eventually will level off with this. So my true probability, according to this website we used, is 60%. So I have a 60% probability of making a free throw shot. How do we interpret that probability? Well, that percentage is based upon me doing the free throw shot many, 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 many times. So, here we go. So we will want to say, oops, if Mrs. Walker makes many, many shots, just to say if we do this on like an extreme or large level, about 60% of them will be made. Now notice the flexibility in our writing, right? I'm not saying I'm always going to make 60% of my shots, but it's just saying when you look at this on a large scale of my whole history of making free throw shots, about 60% of them are going to be made. Is that going to fluctuate? Yes, and that's why we use kind of that language of approximately or about. And if we look at this on a larger scale, this is approximately what will happen. So we're not setting this in stone as this is what's always going to happen, but this is what's approximately going to happen. So there is there are three questions on the backside of this worksheet that I think are going to be really good for solidifying some of this beginning knowledge of probability. So I strongly encourage that you do these three problems and then you go through and check the answers on the keys I've posted on Canvas. And then let me know if you have any questions. You should also be getting the 5.1 notes filled in as well after doing this activity. Thank you. Have a good day.